Namaste and welcome viewers. This is of course a brand new episode of Mirror Prime and today our focus will be Goa. The name of course evokes images of sandy shores, lively shacks and also vibrant culture, but there are concerns now that this tourist paradise is actually losing its charm. Now today, foreign tourism in Goa is struggling to reach its pre-COVID peak. A recent report claims that there is a steep decline with over 1.5 million international visitors in 2023. Compare this to 2019, there were 8.5 million, a drop of 80%. Many of these tourists, once loyal to Goa, are now choosing destinations like Sri Lanka and Thailand, where they find cheaper stays, smoother transportation, and also friendlier policies. Compounding these issues is also the rising tide in frustration, of course, that domestic tourists are also voicing. The domestic tourists, in fact, are frustrated over infrastructure, cleanliness, and lack of safety, especially as far as women are concerned. There's also a lot of outrage on social media about the so-called taxi mafia. Tourists say that they are being overcharged and even threatened by local taxi operators. To make it worse, there's no option of Ola or Uber in Goa either. If you ever have visited Goa yourself personally, you'll also be able to list many more issues such as narrow, overcrowded roads, erratic internet, and also rising airfares. In defense, now the Goa government comes out and says that comparing a state like Goa with other countries like Sri Lanka, Bali, or any other country, it's not right. But the big question, of course, tonight is can Goa evolve to stay competitive in this tourism market? Or will its charm fade, its tourism charm fade under these growing pressures? In fact, joining us right now, our guest today, Amit Palekar, who's the Goa Aam Aadmi Party president, Giriraj Pai Varnekar, who's a spokesperson of the Goa BJP, and Zorawar Kalra, the founder and managing director of Massive Restaurant. Gentlemen, I appreciate you joining us on the broadcast. I'll start with Amit Palekar here. Amitji, this is the CEIC data that I'm quoting right now. Goa's foreign tourism in 2023, it's 1.5 million. In 2019, in fact, it was 8.5 million. It's a 80% drop. What's happening in Goa?
Much before this data was revealed, you must have seen my tweet about a month and a half ago, where I've categorically stated that Goa is losing its tourism to countries like Sri Lanka, to Vietnam and other places. I think you've been saying that you said it on the dot today. I think it's a failure of the government to clearly provide the infrastructure, the quality tourism that Goa was once known for. Goa is a paradise lost, and I stand by this statement when I said Goa is a paradise lost because the fact remains as people of Goa are beautiful. Goa got its name as the best tourist destination, peaceful tourist destination, maybe because of the people that what Goa holds. And what is sought to be done right now is the policy is not in place, the infrastructure is not in place. The major tourist destination, the infrastructure, the roads are in such pathetic state that you can't even walk, forget about driving on those roads. Now, considering this, you go to Sri Lanka, you have better infra. You go to a poor country, as you call it, poor country like Vietnam, you have cheaper destination, luxurious hotels, good service, no harassment by the police, no harassment by the authorities. The businesses that also have come into Goa in terms of in tourism sector have been succumbing to extortion by the government and the government agencies and probably the people in the government itself. And this we have seen with the kind of extortion that happens with the restaurants, the clubs, or the music places in the name of enforcement. Whereas it should have been the duty of the government to create entertainment hubs. It should have been the duty of the government to create infrastructure, to create facilities for wholesome tourism. I think family tourism is lacking in Goa. Goa government has relied more on casinos to bring in people to Goa rather than bringing quality tourists to Goa as a family tourism sector. And I think the number of domestic tourists rise been shown. It is apparent that they are coming for casinos, but casinos are also moving to places like Sri Lanka. The casinos which are operating in Goa have already started their operations in Sri Lanka. Cheaper flights to Sri Lanka, a flight from Goa costs you about 15,000-20,000 rupees return. Whereas a flight one way from Bombay to Goa costs you sometimes 10 to 15,000 rupees. So why would somebody come to Goa to be harassed by the tourist, to be harassed by the police, to be harassed by the traffic police? The coastal belt ministers, coastal belt MLAs have come on record to say that the tourists are being harassed by the police. Yet nothing has been done. I think it's a comprehensive failure of the chief minister and the ministers alike. You can't blame it on
Absolutely.
the system.
The
Also,
government has to be held accountable. You're absolutely right. In fact, Giriraj Pai Varnakar from the BJP is also here. Giriraj ji, your government now comes out and says, the Goa Tourism Department comes out and says that it's not right to compare Goa with countries like Sri Lanka, Vietnam, and nobody's even doing that. Even basic facilities, like I've been to Goa half a dozen times in the last 6, 7 years. You've been in power there for almost a decade now, more than a decade now. There are basic issues like narrow roads, overcrowded roads, open drains. The electricity doesn't work properly. It's poor. The connection is poor. Internet, there are issues with the internet as well. How do we expect foreign tourists or even domestic tourists to come to Goa when such basic issues are not taken care of?
See, I think I'll come to all the issues one by one. But to begin with, how this whole controversy started was somebody sharing data, claiming it to be authentic, saying Goa has fallen from 8 million tourists to 1.5 million. Now, Goa at the peak of its tourism also has received about zero point 0.9 million. For better understanding, let us say 1 million foreign tourists is the highest we have received, be it in 2017, 18 or 19. In 2023 alone, the data which was placed on the floor of the assembly, which is the highest body in any constitutional setup, says that we have received almost 4.5 lakh tourists, which is almost 50% recovery from the post-COVID era. Also, we have to see that the entire world and the tourism market is suffering in a post-COVID kind of a scenario. Goa doesn't have many direct international flights, so any tourist who lands, say at Bombay and comes in a domestic flight, will not be considered as a foreign tourist. But having said that, now one of the issues that you talked about is the taxi issue. Now, in the last few years, various apps like Taxi Goa Miles has come up. Goa Taxi app, which has been started by the government itself, has come up. So a lot of these issues are getting addressed. Now, especially when you talk about the roads, I think one of the best infrastructures in the country today, and you will have Goa right at the top. Even in the beach areas, be it Kalangut, be it Baga, the roads have been widened wherever and to whichever extent possible, given the local considerations. But I again say that, when you compare it to countries, it may not be a fair assessment. But my first primary question is, who has validated the data that Goa has received 8 million foreign tourists in any year? So let me say that this is absolutely a systematic plan. I'm not surprised as the opposition is trying to pin government down by, claiming fake data. But I am categorical that the assembly data which was placed has
So,
shown
Giriraj
that
ji, are you saying the number
at
of
the
foreign
peak of,
tourists have gone up in Goa?
see, I have said that at the peak of Goa's tourism, the foreign tourist arrivals were at 1 million, which is about 10 lakhs. And in 2024, now you have again said that, Goa has received only 1.5 million tourists last year. The official data says it was 4.5 lakhs, which is 50% recovery from the high of pre-COVID era. But I think the COVID era has not been factored in at all. As far as tourist security is concerned, I think there are various efforts like tourism police which have been started, Pink Force, which is specifically caters to women, tourists
Okay.
and women in
Giriraji,
Goa.
point
So I
taken,
think
point taken.
various
You're still
initiatives are
saying
taken.
that while the rest of the nation, the rest of the sectors have all recovered from COVID, COVID-related issues, Goa's tourism is still taking a lot of times. Okay,
No,
who do we
I'll
blame
just
it
make
on?
a
We'll
very
talk about it
quick
later.
point.
But let me also get in
No,
Zorawar
I'll
Kalra
just
here.
make one quick point
Zoravarji,
if you
I'll
allow.
come back to you. Giriraji, I'll come back to you. Let's get in other speakers also. Zoravarji, you have a business there in Goa. You interact with domestic as well as foreign tourists as well. Give us your sentiment from there. Is everything as rosy and as perfect as our friend from the BJP here is putting it?
Hi, thanks for having me. Um, I'm not going to have a political view. I'm just going to talk from a business perspective and from a perspective of arguably one of the largest GDP enhancing entities within the Goa ecosystem, right? I think over a quarter of or around 25% of the entire GDP of the state of Goa comes from tourism. So it's a very important aspect. It is one of the largest employers of people in Goa. And in my opinion, Goa has always over the years been a matter of pride for the country. I don't think the 8 million people number is accurate because I think, if I remember the numbers, and again, I don't have the exact data, but I think the whole country gets around 10 million. So I don't think 8 million can be limited to Goa. I don't think that number is accurate. At the same time, being in the business in Goa, I think there are some infrastructural issues that can be addressed, but it's such a beautiful place, beautiful people. Some of the nicest people that I've ever worked with in my life come from that city. Yes, there has been an oversupply. I remember opening a restaurant in the right after the COVID. So in I think 2021 December is when I opened one restaurant after the first COVID. Sorry, December of 2020. In fact, we opened a restaurant right after the first COVID and before the second big Delta variant hit, and the numbers were amazing. The whole country did not have options to travel overseas. So there was artificial demand. There was artificial enhanced domestic demand as a result of overseas flights not happening, people not going overseas, a lot of the countries being shut because of the COVID. So that was the golden era. After that, I've seen a rapid decline. I don't think just the infrastructure and other things can be blamed, although they are definitely in need of major enhancement. The roads are terrible, as
Then
you
what's to
said.
blame?
Why not have
Zoravarji,
Uber
you're
and
saying
Ola?
infrastructure is not to be blamed, poor electricity is not to be blamed, the road condition is not to be blamed. Then what is to be blamed?
Well, I definitely don't think that they are the only factors. There are other competitive aspects that are coming up. People have reduced, slashed down prices in places like Sri Lanka because the economy was in doldrums. So a price of a hotel that was 100 rupees is now 25 rupees and 30 rupees. So there have been other international competitive pressures that have come in. But yes, the Wi-Fi not working in many parts of the country, that's of the state, sorry, is a problem, and the roads remains a problem. But there also seems to be another issue that affects our industry specifically, which is the sound issue, the restaurants shutting down for a state that that relies 25% of its economy on a particular industry. Why not promote it? Why not give it more comfort, give it more support, have the music be allowed? It's a party destination. How can you have music shut at 10 o'clock? Yes, definitely follow the rule of law. Safety is paramount. If people feel safe, they'll come out more. But at the same time, I think there are other factors also at play that are international in nature, that are competitive in nature, that are market dynamics related, that perhaps cannot be fully blamed on the infrastructure. But there are inherent issues that, as a restaurateur, I think the government needs to address. The timing issue, why shut restaurants at 10 o'clock? Why not have easier access? Some of the problems the authorities, especially with the police, that some of the restaurants are facing, they are a major challenge that prevents more and more people from opening restaurants in the state. But I think these are all addressable. I think if everybody works together, the industry, the government, the authorities, if they all work together, it can be the paradise. I don't think it's a paradise lost. I'm very proud of Goa. It's my favorite place in the country to go for a holiday. And I think it bounce right back. And I think it will bounce right back with the right concerted efforts and joint efforts.
Right, you're talking about efforts now. I'll go back to Giriraji from the BJP. Giriraji, you heard a lot of points there, and this wasn't a political view. This is a person who's speaking from a business perspective about the aspirations of the tourists and also the people who are, involved in business there as well. And we'll be speaking on that as well. And also, one of the important points that you made now is about the domestic airfare. Why aren't you fixing it? It's a double engine government, isn't it? You have your own government at the center. You have your own government in Goa. You're talking about direct flights. You're talking about air connectivity being poor. Why is it poor? Why isn't your government for the past 10 years fixing that? For example, we're talking about domestic airfares. I was just reading this tweet today, which, astounded me. The fact that during Chhath Puja, a flight from Delhi to Paris is cheaper than a flight from Delhi to, say, a place like Patna. What's your government doing about it?
See, if you remember, I think some of the commercial aspects I think will be left to the private players because government cannot intervene in every aspect. I think during the COVID, especially, there was a lot of surge pressures. I mean, surge caps which were put.
But Mr. Giriraji, your Union Aviation Minister on record, the first thing he said after he was sworn in was that he will ensure that prices of airlines airfares are regulated. It's been months now since he's taken charge. It's not fixed.
That is a work in progress. But I think when we are speaking about political issues specifically in Goa, if you see any proposal that gets, any good project that gets proposed, the opposition or there is a opposition to it. For example, Goa today has two airports, Mopa and Dabolim. The whole opposition is out there saying that Dabolim will be shut once Mopa starts. But today, if you see, the number of tourist footfall has increased. The flights have increased. So there is a work in progress. As far as electricity is concerned, currently Goa is connected from only one grid. The second grid, and especially, since Amit is here, I think Aam Aadmi Party has led the agitation saying that Tamnar project should be opposed, which would have actually connected us to southern grid, which has ample power in surplus. But today Goa has no connectivity to the southern grid because the Tamnar project was delayed because of this activism. Again, as it was rightly pointed out, there are things like Supreme Court guidelines where we have to close music at 10 p.m. You tell me any other foreign destination, be it Thailand, be it Bali. I have been to this destination. Even Colombo, I was there recently. There are no such restrictions. But in Goa, a project like a marina, which is going to get you the quality over quantity that we talked about, but marina gets opposed. So all that many people do is I propose you oppose. Now you talked about taxi people. You every time government, even when Goa Miles was started, which actually gives tourists an option not to succumb to anybody trying to please them. What was the result? You ask the opposition leaders. They are the ones who always oppose Goa Miles, saying that you are denying, the right to income to our local people. So all I'm saying is,
you're talking of the opposition now. Amit ji is also here. He's the Aam Aadmi president of Goa. Amit ji, once again, Giriraj ji, I'll ask Amit ji to intervene here because you're saying a lot of things here. Amit ji, a lot of allegations against you, especially the Aam Aadmi party and the opposition in Goa. Mr. Giriraj is very clearly saying that the BJP government in Goa wants to do everything that they can to make sure that Goa is a beautiful place. It's a perfect place for tourists, but opposition like yours don't let the development happen.
Well, Ashish, one thing I will tell you is that I started by saying that Goa has been Goa because of the people that we are. Mr. Zorawar, I've heard him over a period of time, and I think he has sugarcoated the problems. I must mention here that even though I'm a lawyer, my family comes from hospitality industry. My wife is owning some restaurants. We even own some night out places. And I will not sugarcoat the problems. The fact remains as red tapeism has killed the restaurant industry, is trying to kill the entertainment industry. And as far as what Giriraj says, I think Tamnar project in per se was not objected. The way and the manner in which it is being done is objected. There is a communication failure between the government and the people and the stakeholders, and that is a problem. The hospitality industry, as far as I know, and I represent the Sheikh and Restaurant Owners Association. I represent the Retail Alcohol Owners Association. I'm the lawyer too. And we are also in the same industry, and we know the problems that are being faced because of the government's failures. Now, blaming it on the opposition is the best thing that Giriraj can do. I think Mr. Zorawar must have not traveled these days to places, or Giriraj must have not traveled these days right in from Panjim city to the major tourist destinations of, say, Anjuna, Vagator, Arambol, Moji. There are
but
no
a friend
roads.
from the BJP here, Amit Palekar, a friend from the BJP here, says the roads are widened. Everything has been put in place to help tourists.
And we do a live show tomorrow. Take a drive from Panjim, capital city where Giriraj lives, where he can't step back without falling in a ditch, to Vagator, Baga, Anjuna, Morji. We will take a drive. I will take Giriraj along with me and we'll post this video. Is he willing to do that? Let us talk about the infrastructure. This has been there with them for last 3.5 years.
This is, we're talking about social media reports. This is a social media challenge for you here from Amit Palekar.
See, we are more than happy to show the infrastructure work we have done. I will do a before and after also. And since he talked about the Tamnar project, let us say, despite of all the opposition that they did, we have a local MLA there. We have been winning that seat. So let us not, take people for granted. All I'm trying to say is the Mopa airport was also, it may not be Aam Aadmi Party, but Congress had opposed it. The deadline for 10 p.m. music, the opposition was on the streets. Now 10 p.m. deadline is hurting the businesses. I'm not saying that, we should not have any regard for people living around these tourist places. But the moment you start putting such restrictions which are not there,
you're talking about some legal troubles, which I can understand. There's only little you can do about it. But let's also look at the other issues. A lot of tourists have been complaining about being harassed by cops, and it's not just the tourists. Your own MLAs, in fact, in September, 3 MLAs, I believe it was Michael Lobo, Kedar Nayak, Delilah Lobo, who went to the DGP and spoke about issues with law enforcement. I mean, it's your government. When you can't help tourists with law enforcement and you can't solve their problems, Amit Palekar is going to come out and say that what right do you have to stay in government? You're not able to solve the electricity issue, the domestic airfare issue, the law enforcement issue. Questions are going to be raised.
See, the problem is, sometimes it's a chicken and egg story. Some of these MLAs also went to the police station from the ruling party itself and complained that there is a loud music beyond 10 p.m. And the moment government acted, they go back and say that there are no tourists. So I think we have to look at it as Goans. The moment you say that Goa is a paradise lost, I think you are playing straight into the hands of the lobby that doesn't want Goa to prosper or wants to take tourism away. Because see, they are going to be competitive.
No, I didn't say that.
Like
Giriraj, don't put words in my mouth. I didn't say Goa is a paradise lost.
No, but Amit Palekar said it. He said it right at the start.
Okay.
And I am saying, in his hatred for BJP, let him not demean Goa. That's my only request to the opposition. And any project, tomorrow, if you want to get good tourists, today you look at Dubai, the kind of tourists that they get at the marina, but every marina project has been opposed. A golf course gets opposed. So every good project which is going to have, so till what time are you going to stand by the same infrastructure? If you can't play music beyond 10 p.m., you are not going to allow...
Giriraj, I only have 30 seconds on the broadcast. Let me get in Zorawar Kalra also here. Zorawar ji, if you want to sugarcoat it, you can do it like Amit Palekar said. But in just a few words, in 30 seconds, you can just tell the government, of course, the BJP representative is here. What are the demands of the businesses and the tourists in Goa today?
Ji, we both represent the hospitality industry in some way, so I did not try and sugarcoat. I was just trying to be very candid and pragmatic. Very simply, I think we need better infrastructure for sure. We need Wi-Fi. We need the music issue solved. You cannot be in a party place, the best party destination in the country of India, by having music shut down at 10 o'clock. It's ruining the absolute number one form of employment for humans in Goa. It's the number one form of employment. And if restaurants don't prosper, they will shut down. People will lose businesses. We need better Wi-Fi. And please give us Uber. Please give us some form of a digital taxi service, because sometimes you can't find taxi at night. That's a safety issue that affects directly the GDP of the state. You have to support. It is the backbone of the entire economy of Goa is the hospitality industry. It has
Absolutely,
to be considered.
So the message is very clear here. Giriraj ji and of course the government as well. Nobody is asking Goa to compete with countries like Bali, Thailand, and of course other nations. It's all about ensuring that basic facilities and the basic infrastructure needed for a tourism hub like Goa is met. And of course, this is something that's a demand not just from the business owners, but also the tourists. In fact, appreciate you all for joining us on this discussion here on Mirror Prime. All right, viewers, on that note, it's a wrap. Lots more lined up on the other side. Stay tuned.